Namaste Shraddhaji. Narayanam Suragurum Jagadekanatham Bhaktapriyam Sakalaloka Namaskritancha Traigunya Varjitamajam Vibhumadhyamisham Vande Bhavagnamamara Siddhavandyam Narayanam Namaskritya Naranchaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayi Devam Narayanam Natva Sarvadosha Vivarjitam Paripurnam Puruncha Geetartham Vakshyami Leshatah Lakshminarayanam Natva Purna Bodhan Gurunapi Kurma Shri Krishna Gitaya Bhashya Duktartha Sangraham Harihi Om. So today we are looking at the 13th chapter. We have done two shlokas of the 13th chapter. Basically, 13th chapter begins with, in some versions, it begins with Arjuna Uvacha. And in most versions, where Bhagavad-Gita is a Saptashati, Bhagavad-Gita is exactly 700 shlokas. We don't have the 13th chapter beginning with Arjuna Uvacha, but the 13th chapter directly begins with Bhagavan Uvacha. But in some versions where we have 701 shlokas, we can't call them Prakshipta because according to Gita Mana Shloka, the total verses in Bhagavad Gita is 745. So we are, whether it comes with an Arjuna Uvacha or not, both the versions perhaps are truncated versions compared to what the Gita Mana Shloka of the Mahabharata says. But nonetheless, it begins with Arjuna Uvacha, where Arjuna is stressing the point that, O Keshava, O Krishna, Prakritim Purusham cha Veditum Ichhami. I want to know about Prakriti and Purusha. Kshetram Kshetrajnam cha eva Veditum Ichhami. And I would also like to know about the Kshetra and the Kshetrajna. Jnanam Jneyam cha Veditum Ichhami. I would like to know about the Jnana and the Jneya. Right? In a way, when we look at this Bhagavad Gita, which we typically understand to be studied in shatkas, right? The 18 chapters are typically broken down into three shatkas. The first six chapters is the first shatka. The next six chapters is uh, the second shatka, and the last three chapters, so six chapters, is the third shatka. We are in the third shatka, right? We have completed the 6 plus 6, 12 chapters, and this is the 13th. 13 to 18th is popularly understood to be the third shatka. When we look at typically, Jnana Jnaya, the first six chapters were all about Jnana. Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma, Sankhya begins with Sankhya, right? Sankhya is Samyak Akhyata, like it's a Samyak Jnana. The Jnana. Karma Yoga is also typically about Mai Sarvani Karmani Sanyasya Adhyatma Chetasa. There again the Jnana comes into play. The fourth chapter is popularly called the Jnana Yoga, Jnana Karma Sannyasa Yoga. Then the Karma Sannyasa Yoga is also about the Brahma, right? Which is the ultimate Jnana. And the Dhyana, the final sixth chapter in the Shatka, is a Dhyana. Dhyana is something that envelops from Jnana. No, Jnanat Dhyanam Vishishyate, we say. Right? And the next six chapters is typically the Jnaya, the one to be understood, and that is where the Vijnana comes. And then the Vaibhava Rupa of the Bhagavan comes. And it's all about the one to be known. It is that Ekatvena Pratatvena, Jnana Yajnena Chapyanye, Yajanto Mam Upasate, Ekatvena Pratatvena, right? So through the Jnana Yajna, it is the Jnaya, the Ekatva Prataktva. That is typically what we know, what we learned in the next six chapters, right? So when we look at that, right, Jnanam Jneyam Cha Keshava, when Arjuna is asking that question, all that we learned in the 12 chapters is the Jnana, the first six chapters, and the Jneya, the next six chapters. But Arjuna is asking, I would like to know that. Prakritim Purusham Cha, the Purusha is also being spoken of, right? Right from Natvevaham Jatunasam Natvam Neme Janadhipaha, right from the initial part of the second chapter, that Dehi, Deha, Sharirinaha, Shariri, Sharira and the Sharirinaha, that Atma, that is typically the Purusha and the Prakriti. kept on giving different ways, explaining how this Deha is different to the Dehi. So the Prakriti Purusha also has been constantly spoken of, and Kshetrajna. This is typically what we have come across as for the first time, right? For the first time, we are encountering this kind of a terminology, right? So, and again, perhaps Arjuna is just clarifying, as we discussed last week as well. Arjuna is just further clarifying. When I asked you at the beginning of the 12th chapter, Evam Satata Yukta Ye Bhaktas Tvam Paryupasate, Ye Chapyaksharam Avyaktam Tesham Ke Yoga Vittamaha. The people who do the upasana of you in your Vaibhava, Virata, Vishwarupa kind of a form, or people who worship you in your Avyakta Akshara form, who are the better ones? The answer is very different, right? Irrespective what form you worship me with, the one who worships me with parama shraddha, right? And ananya bhakti, that kind of a thing. That kind of a person is, ye tu dharmyamritam midam yatha uktam paryupasate shraddha dhanaha mat paramaha bhaktaha te ativa me priyaha. That's where he ends, right? So Arjuna's question here are not necessarily a question. The beginning of the 13th chapter, where we begin with Arjuna Uvacha, is just a further clarification from Arjuna. Oh Krishna, I would like to know more about the Prakriti Purusha, things that have been spoken all throughout so far, but help me more about this. Kshetrajnam cha. I would like to know more about the Kshetra and Kshetrajna also. And Jnanam Jneyam also. The Jnana and the Jneya, which is essentially all that we have spoken in the first 12 chapters. Right? So Arjuna is asking, help me little more, which basically means that Arjuna is lacking that Paramashraddha in all the 12 chapters that we saw. I mean, there is a transformation. Chapter 11 is definitely a testimony to the fact that there is a transformation in Arjuna. He is no longer in that complete Muda Swarupa, right? Nashto Moha. That kind of a thing we hear at the beginning of uh, the 11th chapter, right? Where uh, no Madanugrahaya Paramam Guhyam Adhyatma Sanjitam Yat Tvaya Uktam Vachastena Moha Ayam Vigata Mama. Arjuna tells that, this moha, this delusion of mine is already Vigata. So there is a transformation that Arjuna has also undergone, experienced, but we don't know how much of it is gone. Perhaps it's an indication that, he still lacks that Parama Shraddha. There is nothing called Parama Shraddha. Shraddha in itself is Parama, right? That Sumanatva, Shuddhamatitva, Anindakatva, Ananyagatitva. There is something lacking in that, and that's the reason why he is asking more. Get me a little more clarification. So Bhagavan obliges. Oh Arjuna, he begins, right? That's what we saw last week. Idam shariram kaunteya kshetramiti abhidiyate. This sharira is what is known as kshetra. Etadyahaveti, the one who knows this, tam kshetrajna iti tadvidaha prahuhu. The rishis, the great learned people who understand all of this, they call him to be the kshetrajna who understands this kshetra, right? Kshetra is the sharira, the one who really understands the kshetra. Now, at a very, very different level, we can understand that, the jivatma, when we apply our adhyatmika, powers on, when we bring in our adhyatmika powers on, we all of us jivatmas can be the kshetrajna when we get to understand this kshetra very, very well, right? We can become the kshetrajna, right? That's what we can understand. But he doesn't stop there, right? We come to the next shloka, shloka number 3. We go to that next shloka. You can click on the link given by Shraddhaji, pinned under the room title. We will be taken directly to that shloka. We will read that. Harihi Om. Om. Kshetrajnam chapi maam vidhi sarva kshetreshu bharata kshetra kshetrajnayor jnanam yatta jnanam matam mama. This is the shloka, the third shloka. Kshetrajnam chapi mam vidhi sarva kshetreshu bharata kshetra kshetrajnayor jnanam yatta jnanam matam mama. So this website is beautiful, right? We scroll down a little bit, we see the Padacheda. Kshetrajnam cha api mam vidhi. Padacheda, right? So cha api becomes cha api. Sarva kshetreshu bharata. Kshetra kshetrajnayoho jnanam. Yat tat jnanam matam mama. When we put that into an Anvaya, the prose order, Apicha he Bharata Sarva Kshetreshu Kshetrajnam Mam Vidhi. Kshetra Kshetrajnayoho Yat Jnanam Tat Jnanam Mama Matam. What does that mean? Apicha he Bharata. Very beautiful Sambhodhara, right? And also, O Bharata, Bhagavad-Drata Bharata. No, Tasya Apatyam Pumam. No, Bharata. If you are a Bhagavad-Driti, if you have that Bhakti Swabhava, very well accentuated within you. And that is the benefit of having seen the last couple of chapters, right? Chapter number 11 and 12 are beautiful expressions of the bhakti. So one tends to become Bhagavad-Rati. Hey Bharata, Apicha, Hey Bharata, and also O Bharata. So there is some special call out being brought in by Krishna here, Keshava. Sarva kshetreshu kshetrajnam mam vidhi. In every kshetra, for all the kshetra of all the encompassing kshetras, kshetrajnam mam vidhi. Know me to be the kshetrajna. I am the ultimate kshetrajna. He is basically declaring that one true absolute awareness is me. You can know a little bit about your kshetra. You can try and know a little bit about your kshetra. Tadvidaha etadyahaveti tam kshetrajna iti prahuhu. That's what the previous shloka says. The great learned people say that a person, somebody, that one who understands the kshetra is known to be the kshetrajna. Okay, but of all the kshetras put together, that absolute awareness is only me. Ahameva kshetrajnam sarva kshetreshu. And please know that, vidhi, know that. He's giving a command. Know that. And kshetra kshetrajnayoho yat jnanam. Whatever is the knowledge between the kshetra and the kshetrajna, of the kshetra and the kshetrajna, among the kshetra and the kshetrajna, that equation between them, whatever has to be known. Tat jnanam iti mama matam. That is the ultimate knowledge, is what I consider. Right? So there are Vedokta Shrutis, right? Kshetrajno Bhagavan Vishnu, Nahyanyat Kshetramanjasa. You know, so ultimate Kshetrajna is Bhagavan Vishnu. That's what he is alluding. So as much as the previous shloka, shloka number 2, can give a hint that Kshetrajna can be the Jivatma, Krishna gives a clarification, Apicha, and also that clarification comes with a disclaimer, very clearly articulating that Kshetrajna, the ultimate Kshetrajna, is only me. You can make an attempt. And attempt at what? See, yat karma yatva bandhaya sa vidyaya vimuktaye. See, this is all about, if you really want to understand more and more, try and understand that knowledge which gives you ultimate liberation. So, the question from Arjuna is important from twofold. The beginning shloka, the first shloka of this chapter, perhaps is important on two accounts. One is that he is giving clarification. Oh Krishna, whatever you understood about my first shloka question of the 12th chapter, I truly wanted to know more about, is Devi Upasana better, the Prakriti Upasana better, the Avyakta Akshara Upasana better, or the Vishnu Upasana better, the Vaibhava Virata Vishnu Rupa. Evam Satata Yukta Ye Bhaktastvam Paryupasate. What is better? Because at the beginning of the Bhagavad-Gita, before the Bhagavad-Gita started in the 25th chapter of the Bhishma Parva, in the 23rd chapter, you asked me to do Devi Upasana. Right? So what is the importance of that? Why did I do that? So is that better or is this better? And he is clarifying that little further. I want to know a little more about the Prakriti, Jnana, Kshetra, they are all the same. Similarly, Purusha, Jnaya, Kshetrajna, they are all the same. Like they're all, the same samanarthaka padas. They are interchangeably used. So Krishna clarifies that. Okay, ultimately, what you need to understand that ultimate jnana is the jnana that is vimukta jnana, sa vidyaya vimuktaye, yat karma yatva bandhaya, sa vidyaya vimuktaye, ayasaya param karma vidyanyayanna naipunam. That when we look at those great sayings, perhaps this chapter, that clarification from Arjuna, is for anybody who wants to go in the path of vimukti. What kind of a knowledge do we need to aspire for? The jnana between the kshetra and the kshetrajna. That clarification comes from Krishna. Right? Kshetra kshetrajnayoho yat jnanam tat jnanam iti mama matam. That is the ultimate knowledge. The knowledge of understanding, the discerning, the discrimination between what is kshetra and what is the kshetrajna. We had been given a hint around it right from the beginning of the Bhagavad-Gita in the second chapter. No, Dehi Nityam Avadhyoyam Dehe Sarvasya Bharata. Vasamsi Jirnani Yatha. So all that first 20-30 shlokas of the Sankhya Yoga, right? It is all about this Kshetra and the Kshetrajna, Prakriti and the Purusha. That has been brought out very nicely by Krishna, but not enough from Arjuna's point of view. He needs more. So perhaps Arjuna is helping with that question to all of us. He's helping all of us in our pursuit of understanding the real knowledge, right? So those are the two important things. Perhaps it's getting clearer, right? When we see the chapter more and more, it's becoming clearer as to what is the importance of that one shloka from Arjuna, which has been omitted in many, many versions. Maybe it's not necessary when we give a proper attention to what Krishna alone is telling. Because without that shloka, without that Arjuna Uvacha, maybe Krishna brings it upon himself that, let me clarify a little more to you, O Arjuna. We can look at it that way also. Okay, let's see what Aurobindo says. Understand me as the knower of the field in all the fields. The ultimate knower of all the fields is me, O Bharata. It is the knowledge. It is that knowledge at once of the field and the knower of the field, which is the real illumination and only wisdom. Yatta jnanam kshetra kshetrajnyoho tat jnanam, ultimate jnanam, iti mama matam, is my opinion. Okay, let's see what the next shloka says. Harihi Om. Tat kshetram yaccha yadrikcha yadvikari yatascha yat sachayo yat prabhavascha tat samasena me shrunu. Tat kshetram yat cha yadrikcha yadvikari yatascha yat sachayo yat prabhavascha tat samasena me shrunu. The padacheda tat kshetram yat cha yatcha yadrikcha yat vikari yadvikari yatah cha yatascha yat सह च सच यह यत् प्रभावः च यो यत् प्रभावश्च तत् समासेन मे शृणु. There are a few sandhis, right? Let's put these words into a proper sentence. Tat kshetram yat cha yadrik cha yad vikari ya cha yatah cha yat sah cha yah yat prabhavah. Too many things. Let's break it down. यच्च यादृच्च यद्विकारी यतः यत् तस्य प्रभावः च तत्समासेन मे शृणु. Right? So basically, there are about, I think, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different ways. Let me explain that kshetra, because now we are more about kshetra and the kshetrajna, right? He said, I will explain. So he's explaining. Tat kshetram shrunu, samasena shrunu. Know about that kshetra in its brevity, in its brief description. And this brief description includes yat tat kshetram. What is that kshetra? Yadrik, how is it? What are the characteristics of it? Yadvikari, in what different ways it undergoes transformation, vikara, the vividhatakara, vikara. Yat, yataha cha, from where it is coming from. So yatcha, yadrikcha, yadvikaricha, yatahacha. 4. Yaha yat prabhavaha. And who is it who is bearing the prabhava on this kshetra? Tat samasena me shrunu. Right? These are the 6 pieces I will explain to you in samasa, in well reconciliated explanation, or in a brevity, in brief. Let me explain to you. I think we saw the Anvaya, right? Tat kshetram yatcha yadrikcha yadvikaricha yataha yatsa cha yaha yat sacha yaha yat prabhavaha. Okay, that's the last part of the Anvaya. Yataha cha yat sahacha saha sacha. I think that that should have been mentioned. Yat sahacha yaha yat prabhavaha. And also about him who bears the prabhava on the thing. Tat samasena me shrunu. Oh, we jump the dictionary. Let's quickly see if Aurobindo dictionary also. Tat kshetram, that kshetra, yat, what is it? Yadrik, what character or nature does it possess? Yat vikari, and what kind of deformations it undergoes. Yataha, and whence, from where, from what source does it come from? Yat cha saha, and also that one, yaha, yat, yat prabhavaha, the one who has that influence on the kshetra. So about the influence of the kshetra, who is it and how does it bear the influence, and what is that kshetra? What kind of a nature does that kshetra possess? What are the different deformations of the kshetra, and from where does the kshetra come? Tat samasena meshanu. Listen to all of this in brief from me. Okay, let's see what Aurobindo interpretation says. What that field is, what are its characters, the nature, the source, the deformations, and what is that he, and what are his powers, hear that now briefly from me. Okay, so basically, this is like a pratigna. Normally, in many granthas we see, right? Let me explain to you, right? Now he is explaining. He is giving that ajna, pratigna, that initial disclaimer. I'm going to explain all of these things to you, oh Bharata. Right? Let's see what that meaning is. We go to the next shloka, shloka number 5, right? Yeah, shloka number 5. ऋषिभिर्बहुधा गीतं छन्दोभिर्विविधैः पृथक् ब्रह्मसूत्रपदैश्चैव हेतुमद्भिर्विनिश्चितैः ऋषिभिर्बहुधा गीतं छन्दोभिर्विविधैः पृथक् ब्रह्मसूत्रपदैश्चैव हेतुमद्भिर्विनिश्चितैः. Right? This is the shloka. Let's see the padacheda. Rishibhi bahudha geetam. Rishibhir bahudha geetam. There is a sandhi. Visargare. Chandobhi vividhaihi prathak. Chandobhir vividhaihi prathak. That's another visargare sandhi. Brahmasutra padaihi cha eva. Brahmasutra padaischaiva. There are two sandhis, right? Visarga Shatva and the Vriddhi. There are two sandhis. Hetumadbhi vinischitaihi. Hetumadbhir vinischitaihi. So there is one more sandhi, Visarga sandhi. Okay, Visarga rep again. Yeah. So let's put that into a sentence. Rishibhihi vividhaihi chandobhihi bahudha geetam. Vinischitaihi hetumadbhihi brahmasutra padaihi pratak evacha. Geetam again. Evacha geetam. You can add that. What does that mean? Rishibhi vividhaihi chandobhihi bahudha geetam. Whatever I'm going to talk to you about that kshetra through its nature, characteristics, where does it come from? This has been, this is nothing new. That's what he's telling. He's telling Rishibhihi bahudha geetam. It has been sung, spoken of in manifold ways by the rishis. Vividhaihi chandobhihi bahudha geetam, by the various Chandas. Chandas are the Rik Chandas, right? The various mantras, various Riks of the Vedas, various Vedic, sayings. No, Vividhaihi Chandobhihi, by the various Chandas also, Bahudha Geetam, it has been sung in manifold ways. Vinishchitaihi, Hetu Madbhihi, Brahmasutra Padaihi, Prutak Evacha. Vinishchitaihi, in properly rational, a certain way. Vinishchitaihi, Hetu Madbhihi, through the philosophical analysis. Brahma Sutra Padaihi, by the sutras of the Brahma Sutra, by the words of the Brahma Sutra, Prithak Evacha, separately as well, it has been sung, Bahudha Geetam. So this field, Kshetra, whatever I am going to talk about now, about its characteristics, about its vikara, about its source, about its prabhava, who bears the prabhava on it, and how does he bear the prabhava on it. All of these things are nothing new. I think two things we can learn about this. One is that, this is nothing new. All I'm going to talk to you about is nothing new, which basically means that Arjuna knows about them. Arjuna has been through some rigorous formal education in the Gurukula, right? In the Gurukula, none of the Gurukulas are devoid of the Vedic study. So, Vividhaihi Chandobihi, and none of the Gurukulas are devoid of the Brahma Sutras. The Brahma Sutras are also, right? Geetam have been spoken of. Basically, you already know all of this. Let me remind you what they are. And second thing that he says is basically when he says Rishibihi Bahuda Rishibihi Vividhaihi Geetam, Bahuda Vividhaihi Geetam, we need to understand that the different Rishi Paramparas in our land, they have explained or given explanation to all the various Vedic messages in their own different way. In the Uddhava Gita, I think Bhagavan gets it a little more clearer. He says how, Kalena Nasta Pralaye Vaninam, Vaniyam Veda Sanjitaha. Like, whatever have been the words of the Vedas, which are the words of the Bhagavan, they have gone through multiple, parampara yukta translations, transformations, transmissions. They have been given down the parampara, right? But through the transmission of the parampara, Kalena Nasta Pralaye, they have also undergone multiple inclinations and multiple destructions, some form of destruction. This is something that he also reminded Arjuna at the beginning of the fourth chapter. No, this, Kalena Nashtaha, Sakaleneha, Mahata Yogaha, Nashtaha Parantapa. So, this entire knowledge about the Prakriti, Purusha, Kshetra, Kshetrajna, this is all contained in the various Vedic lines also, and they have been sung by the rishis also. But in the Rishi Parampara, there are different, Tena Prokta Chaputraya, Manave Purva Jayasa, Tato Bhagwadayo Krishnan, Sapta Brahma Maharshayaha. He's telling all of this into Uddhava, that, the beginning, Rishi Parampara, when it started, it came from Manu to the seven rishis, Saptarshis, the Bhrigu, and the rest. No, but among them, you know, it didn't hold on properly. Bahvastesham prakritayah rajasattva tamo bhuvaha. These rishis, these paramparas also were loaded with their own prakritika nature. They were loaded with their own tamas, rajas, sattva gunas. So when he is telling Rishibihi Bahudha Geetam, the way it has been understood is also different. No, Bahvastesham Prakritayah Rajas Sattva Tamo Bhuvaha Yabir Bhutani Bhidyante Bhutana Matayastatha Yata Prakriti Sarvesham Chitra Vacha Sravantihi Evam Prakriti Vai Chitryad Bhidyante Matayo Nranam. The different paramparas have been brought out Like some of us might claim that, I belong to this Angirasa Rishi Parampara, through which I am now in the Madhva Muni Parampara, Advaita Shankara Muni Parampara, or Vishishtadvaita Ramanuja Muni Parampara. We all might be claiming. But we need to understand something that Krishna has told Uddhava, that within all our Rishi Paramparas, Muni Paramparas, Guru Paramparas, there are influences of the Prakritika Gunas, Rajas Sattva Tamo Bhuvaha. And different paramparas have learned them in different way. And Krishna also goes forward. Manmaya mohita dhiyaha. By being deluded in my maya. Purushaha, hey Purusharshaba, different people, O Purusharshaba, O great among the people, O Uddhava. Shreyo vadantyanaikantam. They all claim that their path is Shreya, and they have also spoken something Shreyaskara in their own path. Yatha karma yatha ruchi. Very beautifully, Krishna has spoken this. Yatha karma yatha ruchi. Now, look at the first shloka, the second shloka, the third shloka, right? That where Krishna is telling, Kshetrajnam chapi mam vidhi, or the one before that, Idam shariram kaunteya kshetramitya vidiyate. When we look at the Ramanuja Bhashya, that shloka has consumed the maximum space when we look at the entire Bhashya for this entire chapter. Same is the case with the Shankara Bhashya. They have huge yatha karma, yatha ruchi. Everybody has given a description. Same is the case with Madhva Bhashya. So, couple of things that we note when he said, Krishna says that Rishibhihi bahudha vividhaihi geetam, vividhaihi chandobhihi bahudha geetam. The Vedas have spoken about these things in many different ways. And many Rishi Paramparas have also explained these. A, nothing new to you, O Arjuna, and B, know that each one according to their own karma, ruchi, whims and fancies, Shreyaha Vadanti Anekantam. This is something that he is told Uddhava. So when we do the augmentative study between the Bhagavad-Gita and Uddhava-Gita, few more pearls of wisdom of Bhagavan, his thought process might come out. This is not to say what is right. Is the Shankara Bhashya the right path? Is the Madhva Bhashya the right path? Is the Ramanuja Bhashya the right path? What we need to understand is Krishna has spoken to Arjuna also. What he told Uddhava may not be in as many clearer terms, but he said, these things have been spoken of from time immemorial, from the Vedas. So, A, nothing new. And Rishibhihi Bahudha Vividhaihi Geetam, Vividhaihi Rishibhihi Bahudha Geetam, by various rishis, which then implies that they were also clouded under their own Sattva, Rajo, Tamo pravrittis. They have been spoken in different ways. And Vinischitaihi Hetumadbihi Brahmasutra Padaihi cha Pratak Eva Geetam. In its own characteristic certain ways, through the words of the Brahma Sutra Padas are also that has been spoken. Now we can understand two further things from this line. A, Krishna is giving significance to Brahma Sutra. Brahma Sutras are the first commentaries on the Veda. When people were getting deluded to know, what to make of this entire, anthology of the Vedic library, Vedic thought group, Brahma Sutras were given by Maharshi Vedavyasa, Bhagavan Vedavyasa, to make sense of what the Vedas are trying to say. See, Krishna also goes on to further clarify in the 15th chapter, Vedaisha Sarvai Rahameva Vedya. And Maharshi Vedavyasa also begins the Brahma Sutra within that. Athato Brahma Jijnasa Om. Let's understand who to be known. That Jnaya, he places that emphasis on the Jnaya, what to be known. Athato Brahma Jijnasa Om. Janmadhyasya Yataha Om. From whom all of this has come out. So, Shastra Yonitvat Om, by the Samanvaya, by the reconciliation of all the Shastras. So, Brahma Sutra Padaihicha. So, there is an emphasis given on Brahma Sutra being, and Brahma Sutra Padaihi Vinishchitaihi Hetu Madbihi Bahudha Geetam. When we say that, Look at the way Brahma Sutras have been commented upon today in the various Rishi Paramparas, right? Vividhaihi Rishibihi Geetam, right? Look at the Shankara Bhashya takes Brahma Sutra in a different way altogether. It is called no, the Adhyasa. It's a superimposition. It is not real, right? That's another way of looking at the Brahma Sutra in a superimposition way. Shri Bhashya, which is completely the real Jagat Satyam. That's the way Shri Bhashya takes it, right? Look at the Madhva Bhashya. Madhva has written 4 Bhashyas on it, right? One is called the Brahma Sutra Bhashya, giving the explanation to the Sat Asat kind of a nature. Then Acharya Madhva has also come up with something called Anuvyakhyana, primarily to explain, give an explanation to the Adhikaranas. Brahma Sutras cannot be understood by themselves, right? The 550 odd sutras have broken down into 200 odd Adhikaranas. And in thematic way, in different themes, we like the first few sutras are talking about Jijñasa Adhikarana, something like that. Like they make themes. So Acharya Madhva has also come up with an explanation to why he chose these adhikaranas. So he gives an explanation to adhikaranas with another work called Anuvyakya. No, Nyaya Vivarana. There is another work called Nyaya Vivarana. Then he is not the first person to give commentary on the Brahma Sutra. So in comparison to the Purva Paksha, he came up with another thing called Anuvyakhyana, where he is explaining the Brahma Sutra in view of the Purva Pakshas. And then he came up with another simpler version that people can use, his students can use on a quick way with just 32 shlokas. He explains the entire Brahma Sutras, 550 sutras explained in simple as 32 shlokas. Like, for example, he starts off with Vishnureva Vijijñasaha Sarvakarta Gamoditaha Samanvaya Dikshate Purnanandontarah Kavat. Like Akasha Stallingat Om, there is a big sutra where adhikaranas are different and there are different explanation. Acharya Madhva just brings it as khavat, just one word. Kha is akasha, akashavat, akasha stallingat om. He just uses one simple word, khavat. Done. That entire adhikarana comes, entire sutra comes, the entire explanation also comes. He is like akashavat. Yata akasha stito nityam vayu sarvatra go maham. That's something that we're going to hear later in this chapter. So in this chapter, a couple of things, right? So various rishis, paramparas have also given this explanation, and it's also coming through the Brahma Sutra. And Brahma Sutras are also not easy to understand. Acharya Shankara took it in a way, Acharya Ramanuja took it in another way, Acharya Madhva treated it in a different way. Is that enough? No, it's not enough. Look at their individual paramparas. Within their individual paramparas, I think the Shishya Vrinda is continuing to give commentaries on the Brahma Sutras. We are not done. Even now, as we speak, there are different people giving different commentaries on the Brahma Sutra. In Acharya Madhva's parampara, there is another Acharya called Jayatirtha. We call him Tikacharya. He is known to give commentaries on all the works of Madhvacharya. Very beautiful work. But so on the Brahma Sutra, he came up with something called the Nyaya Sudha. Nobody understands that also. At studying that is a big task. On that, different people have given further commentary. So on the Brahma Sutra, on the Veda, so Brahma Sutras are the commentaries on the Veda. Then there are commentaries on the Brahma Sutra. Then there are commentaries on the Brahma Sutra. People have continued to describe Yatha Karma, Yatha Ruchi. That's exactly what Krishna spoke to Uddhava. So the question that you asking me, Arjuna, so in a way, I think Krishna is admitting to Arjuna. I have tried to explain to you from the beginning of the second chapter. If you don't understand all of these stories, it's very easy for us to come to the conclusion that Arjuna is a dud. No, he is not a dud. He is making the best use of the presence that he has, the company that he has. Sakshat Narayana, Sriman Narayana, Paramatma, Sri Krishna. His presence, he's trying to make the best use. Arjuna might give longer discourse on all the 6 things. Kshetra, Kshetrajna, Jnana, Jneya, Prakriti, Purusha. Arjuna is a Mahajnani. He can give lengthy discourses on all of these things. But the fact that he has a company of Maheshwara, Bhagavan Sri Krishna, he is asking. And not that Arjuna is not aware of these various, Rishi Paramparas and things like that. So Krishna is just reminding him, Bahudha Rishibhihi Vividhaihi Geetam. Vividhaihi Rishibhihi Bahudha Geetam. Take it, in any which ways. Chandobihi Vividhaihi Bahudha Geetam. Brahmasutra Padaihi Cha. Vinishchitaihi Brahmasutra Padaihi. Vinishchitaihi Hetumadbihi Brahmasutra Padaihi Cha. Vividha Geetam, Bahudha Geetam, which means this has been Geetam Yatha Karma Yatha Ruchi. Shreyo Vadantyanekantam Yatha Karma Yatha Ruchi. This is exactly what Krishna had told Uddhava. Know that this has been spoken. This has been spoken in many, many scriptures by many, many rishis, and you will understand. It will not be, no matter how much I try to explain to you now, also, I don't know how much you will be able to know. Right? So he's giving the disclaimer Arjuna, you know them. And no more. I will explain to you. I mean, not that he won't explain, but he's giving a disclaimer. This has been spoken of. This is nothing new. By the Vedas, by the Rishis, by the Brahma Sutras, and Brahma Sutras have their own parampara, right? Tattva Pradipika. So somebody writes another commentary on another. Tattva Viveka, Tattva Pradipa. There are different people that continue to write commentaries on the 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 Brahma Sutra, which is essentially commentaries on the Veda, which are essentially teaching us all of these. Avyakta, Akshara, Avyakta, the Avyakta, all of these things are being spoken of in the Veda. Nobody understands it properly. That's something that we need to understand by what Krishna is giving as a disclaimer. Let's see what Aurobindo says. It has been sung by the rishis in manifold ways, in various inspired verses, and also by the Brahma Sutras, which give us the rational and philosophical analysis. I mean, this interpretation makes us feel that it's so easy, but I think what I feel is it's not easy. What Krishna is the reason why Krishna has used this shloka is to give that importance that different people by their own avarana of their gunas, sattva, rajas, tamas. See, that's why even the Puranas are amazing works of Vedic explanation, right? No, Itihasa Puranabhyam Vedaha Samapa the reason why we have the Puranas is a way for us to understand the Vedas better. Even the Itihasas are written in a way where it helps us understand the Vedas also better. Along with knowing what happened in the society, it also helps us understand the Vedic messages better, right? That's why Vyasa Maharshi says, the beginning of the Bharata, Itihasa Puranabhyam Vedaha Samapa. But it's not easy. Even the Puranas have the Satvika Puranas, Rajasika Puranas, Tamasika Puranas, that there. So Krishna is basically giving a disclaimer in this shloka. These Rishi Paramparas are also endowed with lot of these gunas, Prakritika gunas. It's not easy to understand, hence, right? And we can continue the debate. If somebody comes up and says, what does the Shankara Bhashya say? What does the Madhva Bhashya say? We can keep on debating endlessly. And hence, I think this thing will also come very clearly later when we see. The best thing for us to do is don't think too much. Just put them into practice and then try to see if that can help you in your yoga abhyasa. That abhyasa is the most important thing. No, Shreyo hi jnanam abhyasat jnanam. And then through that abhyasat jnanam. That's something that he makes it very clear in the previous chapter, right? Abhyas, and put that into the abhyasa and try to see what your jnana is that comes from your own abhyasa. So that's something that we need to bear in mind. So put them into the practice, right? So too much contemplation, endless contemplation will also take us anywhere, because through the various paramparas are also, they're all scattered in all different directions because of the prakritika swabhavas that has the prabhava. Okay, let's move on to the next shloka, shloka number 6. Harihi Om. Mahabhutanyahangkaro buddhiravyaktameva cha indriyani dashaikancha panchachendriyagocharaha. Mahabhutanyahangkaro buddhiravyaktameva cha Indriyani dashaikancha pancha chendriya gocharaha. Let's see the padacheda. Mahabhutani ahankaraha buddhihi avyaktam evacha indriyani dasha ekam cha pancha cha indriya gocharaha. There are a few sandhis, right? Quite apparent. So we put these words into an anvaya, proper prose order. Avyaktam buddhihi ahankaraha mahabhutani evacha dasha indriyani ekam cha, which is in bracket manaha, pancha indriya gocharaha cha. So he said, I will talk to you about that kshetram, yatcha, yadrikcha, yadvikari, right? Now he is going on to explain that kshetram. Having given the disclaimer in the previous shloka, look, boss, all of these things have been spoken by the rishis, by the Vedas, by the Brahma Sutra. Now he goes on in this shloka, he is explaining the kshetra, avyaktam, buddhihi, ahankaraha, mahabhutani, dasha indriyani, ekam cha indriya, pancha indriya gocharaha cha. Right? What are they? इस श्लोक का अन्वय अगले श्लोक में निहित है, which means the complete sentence will get formed when we look into the next shloka also together. But nonetheless, let's see what this means. Mahabhutani, what does the dictionary says? No, not avyaktam. Avyaktam is the indiscriminate, unmanifest energy. Indiscriminate is away from the buddhi. No, buddhi abheda, like it's buddhi bheda, like keeping it away from the discriminatory power, which is the buddhi. Indiscriminate, unmanifest, na vyaktam, iti avyaktam, energy. Right? So come back, right? He's telling now avyakta, I think it's part of the kshetra, part of the Shri Tattva, part of the Shakti Tattva, part of the Devi Tattva, right? Avyakta Akshara, I think there is some clarification coming from Krishna. That avyakta upasana, avyakta akshara upasana, there is a part element of Devi Tattva being called out in that. While explaining to you about the avyakta akshara in the previous chapter, it is not just the unmanifest form of the Bhagavan. Avyakta is basically that Mahat Tattva. Avyakta vyaktaya sarvaha prabhavantyah ragame. When we see that line in the 8th chapter, we all are part of that Mahat Tattva. We all have stemmed out from that Mahat Tattva. Right? So that's the basically Avyakta. Avyakta is Mahat Tattvam Upalakshate. Right? So Mahatattva, indiscriminate, unmanifest energy. Mahabhutani, the 5 elemental states of the matter. Okay, Viyadadi Bhumyam Pancha Mahabhutani. Okay, basically from Akasha onto the Bhumi, all the Pancha Mahabhuta, Akasha, Vayu, Apo, Tejas, Jyoti, and Bhumi, Prithvi. No, Bhumirapo, Nalo, Vayu, Kham. He mentioned that, right, in the beginning of the 7th chapter. 7th chapter was explaining the Vijnana, right? So that's the Apara Prakriti, right? He mentioned something called the Apara Prakriti. Bhumirapo, Nalo, Vayu, Kham. Manaha Buddhi comes later, but Kham is the Akasha. Mahabhutani. Dasha Indriyani. Dasha Indriyani are the Pancha Jnanendriyas and the Pancha Karmendriyas. Jnanendriyas are the Shrotram, Chakshuhu, Tvak, Sparsha is through the Tvak, Shrotra, the ears, the skin, the eyes, the nose, and the tongue. And the Pancha Karmendriyas. When we look at the Nirvana Shatka, it's very easy, right? What's that? Vak Pani Padam Cha Upastaphayu. Those are the 5. Vak is the speech. The tongue plays the dual role. One, to taste as a Jnanendriya and to speak as a Karmendriya. Right? Tongue is a very important thing. So tongue comes both. So Dasha Indriyani, the Pancha Karmendriyas and the Pancha Jnanendriyas. Ekamcha, and also that one more, Manaha Shasthani Indriyani, he says later, right, in the 15th chapter. But fortunately, we saw the 15th chapter. So Manas is the 11th Indriya, right? That's why when we say Ekadashi, the 11th day, the importance is the mind control, upavasa. When we stay closer to the Bhagavan, we give up all the sense experiences, all the actions. We stub the actions, the karmendriyas, and we stub the jnanendriyas. We keep them under control through the manas control. It's all about the mind control. Ekam cha, that one extra thing, mind, manas. Ahankaraha, ahankara, it's the ego. We call it as the ego. Right? Evacha, pancha indriyani gocharaha cha. Pancha shabdadyaha, basically pancha tanmatraha. Basically, indriya gocharas are the ones that objects of the senses, gochara, right? The one that comes in contact with the indriyas, the jnanendriyas. Basically, if I have to open my eyes, I will see something. So the sight is a gochara, indriya gochara. Sight is one sense, object of the sense. Okay, if I open my ears, if my ears are active, then I have to hear something. I keep hearing something. And the indriyas will look out for a sound. Some or the other sound will come. If nothing, then we will start hearing the buzz of the wind, right? Or we hear the silence, but we hear something, right? It's indriya. So sound is the indriya gochara for the shrotra, the ear, right? Then there is light for the eyes. Then there is touch. There is touch, right? I mean, for the skin will have to feel something. If there is nothing to feel for the skin, it will feel the air, it will feel the wind, right? Something has to be there, and something is constantly touching the skin, and we can feel the touch all the time. The temperature of the thing, air, the weather around us, it keeps the touch is the next object of sense, or the indriya gochara, or the tanmatra. We also call it as tanmatra, or the rasa. Rasa is the taste, right? The tongue, the tongue keeps tasting something or the other, right? It's on. If the food is not offered, then it will keep tasting its own saliva, that skin, what's coming in contact with. So taste is something that's constantly active. And ghrana, the smell, right? The gandha rasa rupa sparsha shabda. These are the five pancha indriya gocharaha. So these are the part of the kshetra. I think it will come later, but these are the part of the kshetra. Basically, samasena kshetram. He is basically explaining the kshetra in brief. What are they according to Aurobindo interpretation? The indiscriminate, unmanifest energy, avyakta, the five elemental states of matter, mahabhutani, the 10 senses, the pancha jnanendriya and the pancha karmendriya, and the one manas, intelligence, right? Uh, intelligence is not mentioned. Buddhi, yeah, intelligence, and avyaktam. Sorry, ahankara, the ego. The five objects of the senses, pancha indriya gocharaha. This is the constitution of the kshetra. Yat kshetram, and yadrikcha. Right? This is the kshetra. It comes. This is the kshetra being spoken comes in the next shloka, but we just jump the line because the two shlokas need to be added together to get the proper sentencing, right? With that, we move on to the next shloka. Harihi Om. इच्छाद्वेष सुखम दुःखम संघातश्चेतना धृतिः एतत् क्षेत्रं समासेन सविकारमुदाहृतम् इच्छा द्वेषः सुखम दुःखम संघातः चेतना धृतिः एतत् क्षेत्रं समासेन सविकारम उदाहृतम् अन्वय और पदच्छेद इच्छा द्वेषः सुखम दुःखम संघातः चेतना संघातश्चेतना धृतिः एतत् क्षेत्रं समासेन सविकारम उदाहृतम. Not many sandhis, just one. संघातः चेतना संघातश्चेतना. Right? When we see the Anvaya, Ichha, Dveshaha, Sukham, Dukkham, Chetana, Sanghataha, Dhritihi, Samasena Udahritam, Etat Savikaram Kshetram. What does that mean? Ichha, we click on dictionary, right? Ichha, the liking. Ichha is also the Kama, Abhilasha. All of these are Samanarthaka padas of the word Ichha, right? Lipsya, Lipsyate, all of these things. Ichha, the liking. Dvesha, the disliking. So basically, Kama and Dvesha. Ichha, Dvesha. Sukham, Dukkham. Basically, Sukhanushayi is Raga, Kama. What we desire is basically Sukhanushayi. And Dukkhanushayi is Dvesha. Dvesha is basically Anushayi of the Dukkha. So Ichha, Dvesha, Sukham, Dukkham, Chetana, the consciousness, right? The Sanghataha, the collation, or the body. Sanghata. So basically, if you have to understand, no, Chetana is basically the consciousness. It's the Jnanatmika Manovritti. Okay, Chitta Vyapti. Chetana is basically the Jnanatmika Manovritti, the understanding, the consciousness. And Dukkham, see, when we look at the Ichha is basically Drishteshu Shroteshu va Ruchir Yasyaha, the liking, in of all the sense experiences, the things that give us, Ruchi, the liking, that's the Ichha, the Kamana. And Dvesha is basically Ichhanurupaha Vishayaha Apraptaschet. Dvesha, if the Ichha is Aprapta, is incompletely accomplished, then the Dvesha, disliking, happens. Sukham is basically Anukula Vedaniyam Yadva. Sushupto Yad Bhavati. Anukula Vedaniyam. The one that, as I said earlier, right? The Anukula, the one that is favorable to us. And it can be in the Sushupto also, Yad Bhavati. Even in the deep state also, it remains. Sukham. Dukkham Pratikula Vedaniyam. And Sushupti Sukha Abhave, without the Sukha, the Abhava of the Sukha. And Pratikula, the Tadviruddha for the Anukula, right? Tadeva Dukkham, that is the Dukkha. Right? And Sanghataha is the co-location. Right? Sanghata is basically the body, Deha. Deha can be the Sanghata because it's a collation. I mean, see, when we look at our body has all the Panchamahabhuta. There is Agni, Jataragni, Udaragni, there is Jyoti, there is Apo, there is liquid. 80% of our body is liquid. That's what the ad of Aquafina used to claim, right? Liquid. There is Prithvi Tattva. There are many, many elements. There is gold. There are many metals also in our body, right? So when we burn, I mean, all of these things come out, right? There is Vayu. Inside there is the Shakti. It's all the hydraulic Shakti, right? The Prana Shakti inside all of us. There is Akasha. There is enough of space inside the body. So basically, Sanghata, it's a collation of all of these things and co-location. All these Pancha Mahabhuta are together kept. And Dhritihi is persistence. Dhr, Dharma, Dhriti, Dharana, Dharti. All of these things are from the same root. But let's understand this word very nicely, right? Dhritihi. What we need to understand is basically the Prithvyadi Bhutani Swabhavataha Paraspara Virodhini. The Panchamahabhuta, what he spoke of, right, in the previous shloka, Swabhavataha, by their innate nature, they are Paraspara Virodhini. They block one another, they stub one another, they snub one another, they perish one another. Right? What happens when water comes in contact with fire? Two Panchamahabhuta, right? They fight with one another. What happens when Prithvi comes in contact with water? One tries to consume the other. Either Prithvi tries to subsume the water or the water tries to subsume the Prithvi. During the Pralaya Kala, that's what the natural law is. But resisting that is dhriti. Okay, tathapi yena dhairyena deha ekatvam prapya nirvairena, you know, itaretara poshakani bhavanti. No, despite this tadviruddha paraspara virodha swabhava of the Mahabhuta in the Sanghata, in the Deha, when they come together, that life, that kind of brings in the ekatva in the Sanghata, ignoring the paraspara vairi swabhava of the Pancha Mahabhuta. That is dhriti. That nirvairitvam, that otherwise left to itself, the Vayu and the Jyoti, they don't gel well. One has to consume the other, right? So dhriti is a very important word. So dhriti is that persistence, very beautifully put in this website, persistence. Because when we give a thought, deeper thought, the Pancha Mahabhuta and the Sanghata, to remain as Sanghata, dhriti is important. Samasena Udahritam briefly has been described. Etat Savikaram Kshetram. These are the Savikara, the deformations of the Kshetra. Along with the deformations, the Kshetra has been spoken. Basically, the 24 Tattvas, right? The 24 Tattvas, along with the 7 deformations, is what he is calling as the, the Kshetra, Savikara Kshetra. Now add another 3, which is the Rajo, Sattva, Tamo, Guna, Prakriti, which was what was called out in the previous shloka. I think you have the full Tattva tree, 36. That is the Kshetra. Right? This 36, along with the deformations, the Prakritika Rupas, and the Trigunatmika Amshas, gives us the complete Tattvas. Right? The previous shloka talks about the Mahabhutani 5, Ahankara 6, okay, Buddhihi 7, Avyakta 8, Indriyani Dashaikancha 11, right? 19 plus Pancha cha Indriya Gocharaha 24 tattvas in the previous shlokas. And add another 7. Ichha, Dveshaha, Sukham, Dukkham, Sanghataha, Chetana, Dhritihi. Right? You get 31. Right? 31. And add another 3, 34. Right? And then we have to add 2 more. We will add them later. Basically, we get all the tattvas. Savikaram, Udahritam. Savikaram, basically, it can be the 7 mentioned here. Ichha, Dveshaha, Sukham, Dukkham, Sanghata, Chetana, Dhritihi. These are the Prakritika. And all of these are important. The desire, without the Ichha, that Mahat Tattva wouldn't have come out. Right? Sukham, Dukkham are the Ashaya, Sthana, Asana. Dukkhanushayi, Sukhanushayi, that Ichha, Dvesha comes from there. And Chetana, without that Chetana, the Bhutani don't exist. Sanghata, that coming together, integration, the body, the formation of the body, and keeping the body alive. Otherwise, the disintegration is easy. Without the prana, there is no dhriti. And if the dhriti is gone, my body will just collapse. Right? The bones will fall down. On top of that, the liquid particles will settle down. But there is a dhriti that is keeping it all in the ekatva, despite the paraspara virodha swabhava of the Panchamahabhuta. So that is the Prakriti. This is the Kshetra, Savikara Kshetra. Krishna is explaining them. And giving it a thought is important. Breaking this down is very, very important because Arjuna's question is simple. You have explained all, but I need to know more. So I think expect a lot more dissection happening. In this chapter, what happens primarily is that a lot of dissection to the minutest of the particle happens. Right? So Aurobindo interpretation, liking and disliking, ichha, dvesha, pleasure and pain, Sukham, Dukkham. And liking and disliking is associated with the pleasure and the pain. That we need to bear in mind. These are the principal deformations of the kshetra: consciousness, collocation, sanghata, or the body, persistence, dhriti. These briefly describe and constitute the field and its deformations. Etat kshetram samasena kshetram iti udahritam. Okay, with that we move on to the next shloka, shloka number 8. Hari Om. Huh. I think these are, I think, five shlokas, I think, four or five shlokas that describe some 20 or 18, 18 or 20, depending on the way we see. Let's see them. Basically, the jnana, I think kshetra is spoken of. Kshetrajna is briefly spoken of. He said, I am the kshetrajna. Okay, that's one big statement. But kshetrajna has been briefly spoken of, may not be fully, we will see later. Kshetra, along with its savikara, along with its vikarena sahita is savikara, right? So, along with the vikara, the kshetra has been spoken of. I think now we are entering the jnana jneya phase. So, let's see. He begins with some different things which look like vikara of the kshetra, but these are essential for the jnana, right? Let's see what these are. Shloka number 8. Hari Om. अमानित्वमदम्भित्वम् महिंसा क्षान्तिरार्जवम् आचार्योपासनं शौचं स्थैर्यमात्मविनिग्रहः अमानित्वमदम्भित्वम् महिंसा क्षान्तिरार्जवम् आचार्योपासनं शौचं स्थैर्यमात्मविनिग्रहः. Let's see the padacheda when we scroll down a little bit, right? Amanitvam, adambhitvam, ahimsa, kshantihi arjavam, kshantirarjavam. Acharyopasanam, acharya upasanam, shaucham, sthiryam, atma vinigraha. I think only a couple of sandhis. But I think the Anvaya may not be needed for this. Amanitvam, adambhitvam, ahimsa, arjavam, kshantihi, shaucham, sthiryam, atma vinigraha, acharya upasanam. I think the next five shlokas put together when we study them, right? These are different vikara of the kshetra in different ways, right? And they also show different bhava. In the 10th chapter, he says, right, Bhavanti bhava bhutana matta eva pratag vidhaha. These are the vividha bhava. And the bhavas come because of the deformations of the prakriti. But nonetheless, he says, amanitvam, na manitvam, na mani bhavati iti amani, amanitva. Okay. Tasya bhavaha amanitva. Amanitva, the feeling of pride, mana, nirmana, moha, he says, no, that's similar to that. Feeling of the lack of pride, not having the pride, amanitva. Adambhitva, a total absence of arrogance. Now, see, adambhitvam, total absence of arrogance, or dambha is also hypocrisy. Okay, dambhatvam na bhavati iti adambhitvam. There is no hypocrisy, there is no arrogance. Pride and arrogance goes close, but adambhitva, see, basically what we need to understand is, even when I know that I am, like for example, see, some of us make this mistake of, especially in a forum like Clubhouse, platform like Clubhouse, just because we have the mic, we can speak on any subject, right? Not regarding, complete disregard to the fact that, I can be an alpajnani. Knowing that also, I go for and say, oh, this is what this is what that is, without giving proper disclaimer or being humble enough. That is where I think the arrogance comes. Knowing that there is an alpatva, there is an inferiority in me, or I don't have the full capability, basically disrespecting my incomplete capability and then committing to something beyond my reach. That's the dambhitva. Not having that is adambhitva, not having that hypocrisy, not having that excessive arrogance of committing to more than what I can chew. And that's the adambhitva. So total absence of arrogance, I think, should be looked at in from that fashion, because dambha is not just arrogance; it is also hypocrisy. You give, atma alpatvam jnatva api mahatva darshanam dambha. I think that's the way we have to define it. Atmanah alpatvam jnatva api. Even after knowing the shortcomings in a person, mahatva darshanam, flaunting something higher about oneself. Oh, I am this, I am that kind of a thing. No, that is that is dambha, lacking that adambhitva. Arjavam. Arjavam is basically candidness, straightforwardness. Sarala. Uh, you know, not vakrata. There is no long and tedious. If I have to explain something, I have to explain it straightforward. If not, we will go round about in many different ways. I mean, if it is about elucidating a very fine point, then it's perhaps okay. But sometimes we will see a lot of people, whatever thing you ask them, they keep on beating around the bush. There is no straightforward answer. Arjava is that candidness, that straightforwardness, that saralata, that simplicity. Kshantihi, benignity, or also comes from kshama, forgivance. Right? Shaucham is clean, purity, mind and the body. Very nice. Shaucham cha dvividham proktam. That's the Shruti Yukta. There are two types of shaucha, I say. Bahyabhyantaram. Bahyam abhyantaram. There are two types of shaucha. Bahir shaucha, abhyantara shaucha. There is an internal shaucha and there is an external shaucha. Mind and the body. Body is that external shaucha and mind is that internal shaucha. Mrjalabhyam kritam bahyam. No, the bodily shaucha is done through soap and water. Mrjalabhyam. Soap in the ancient days used to be the sand. The mud used to be used to, as a scrub to wash the dirt from the body, right? Soaps came much later, but we used to use the sand and the mud. Even now, I think some of the exotic spas will use that mud bath. They use that mud bath. Mrjalabhyam. Kritam bahyam. Bhava shuddhis tatantaram. So bhava shuddhi, cleanliness of the thoughts, cleanliness of the expressions. No, that's the antar shaucha. So purity is both bahya abhyantara. Stairyam is that steadfastness, steadiness, tranquil firmness, and the steadfastness. No, deha prarabdha vashat purva samskarena sancharatyapi manasa. That, not letting the mind wander, not letting the body wander here and there. Stairyam. Atma vinigraha. Atma is the self. Vinigraha. Visheshataha. Vividhataya nigraha. Completely under control. So Atma vinigraha can be that mind, body, intellect control. See, if you don't control all of them, then there is an issue. Vinigraha, Visheshataya, Nigraha, Vividhata. In multiple ways we can look at the word Atma. The body can be the Atma, the mind can be the Atma, the heart can be the Atma, the Buddhi can be the Atma, and the Chitta Prakara inside all of us, the Paramatma Tattva, that's also the Atma. Because they all are the Te, Yachapnoti, Yachati. That's the definition of the Atma. So it's basically the complete senses, the different senses. The jnanendriyas can also be termed as Atma in different contexts. Right? So Vinigraha is complete self-control, which is the senses, mind, buddhi, ahankara, everything under the control. And Acharya Upasanam. See, this is just a reminder, right? I think Jnana Jnaya, those are the points to be touched upon by Bhagavanta. But look at the Jnana, the way it was explained in the fourth chapter. Atma Sanyama Yogagno Juhvati Jnana Deepite. The Jnanendriyas will be misleading. Sorry. The Jnanendriyas will be misleading. The sense organs will be misleading in helping me understand the reality if I go berserk in my sense gratification. Right? This is where, when we see the connoisseurs of taste, right, the wine tasters and all, they don't indulge in drinking. like the tobacco tasters, the wine tasters, if they go berserk in experiencing that, go behind them, then they will go wrong even in their discussion of what is the right taste, what is the right chocolate. In certifying the chocolate, the tobacco, and the wine, they will go mad, right? If they so that atma vinigraha, atma sanyama yogagno juhvati jnana deepite. The sense organs will give us the right knowledge only when those senses are kept under check. That's why atma vinigraha is important, right? Even in the apaurushaya jnana, jnana can be pratyaksha jnana, paroksha jnana, and aparoksha jnana. Even for the you know aparoksha jnana, we need to have the atma vinigraha. Shraddhavan labhate jnanam tatpara sanyatendriya. This is something that he has spoken in the fourth chapter. And acharya upasanam, for jnana, acharya upasana, the heart's worship given to the teacher, is what this website says. Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya is something that he spoke in the fourth chapter. So he's basically reminding these are the qualities needed for the proper jnana. Amanitva, that 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 subdued vanity, pride. Adambhitva, that subdued hypocrisy. Ahimsa, that ability, the natural ability to harm. These are the animalistic instincts in all of us. While we proudly call ourselves as human beings, our fundamental trait is to harm others. But when we elevate ourselves in the human level, to the human level, the first thing that's needed is ahimsa, that harmlessness. Without that, the proper jnana. And what is that jnana we spoke of? Sa vidya ya vimuktaye, that mukti jnana, the liberating jnana, is to acquire that. First and foremost, we need to have that amanitva, adambhitva, ahimsa, that ability to stay without harming anyone. Arjava, that candidness, that simplicity, that straightforwardness. That kshantihi, that kshama swabhava, the benignity or the forgiveness kind of an attitude. Shaucham, the purity, the internal, external purity. Stairyam, that steadfast, tranquil firmness. Atma vinigraha, the complete self control. And Acharya Upasanam, ability to serve the teacher. And serving the teacher has been explained. Pranipatena pariprashnena seva, the constant inquiry and subservient, and offer everything. Manasa, Urasa, Vachasa, that Shashtanga Pranama. Offer nothing is Naham Karta, Hari Karta. Offer everything to that Guru, to that Acharya. And Acharya is a beautiful word. You don't generally follow anyone. Follow the one who does what he says. Acharya. He is also doing Acharana. He is also not just somebody who speaks for the heck of it, right? There are many people who can give jnana, many people who follow that line. People who follow what they teach, preach what they follow what they preach, right? I mean, they have better wisdom, right? They have better understanding of the nuances. So Acharya Upasana, the one who is engaged in action of what he is about to teach, be subservient to such a person. Acharya Upasana. And Upasana is also not easy, right? When we have that Manitva, Dambhitva, it's not easy to surrender to an Acharya. So step by step, Amanitva, Adambhitva, Ahimsa, Kshantihi, Arjava, Acharya Upasana, Shaucha, Sthairya, Atma Vinigraha. Let's see what Aurobindo says. A total absence of worldly pride, total absence of arrogance, harmlessness, a candid nature, a tolerant nature, long suffering and benignant heart, Shanti, purity of the mind and the body, the tranquil firmness and the steadfastness, self control and a masterful government of the lower nature, and the heart's worship given to the teacher, Acharya Upasanam. I think there are about nine qualities, I think. I don't know. We can count, but I think the next five shlokas put together in collection, they give us about 20, right? We will see them. Okay, shloka number 9. You go to the next shloka. Harihi Om. Indriyartheshu vairagyam manahankara evacha Janma mrityu jara vyadhi dukkha doshanu darshanam. Indriyartheshu vairagyam anahankara evacha. Janma mrityu jara vyadhi dukkha doshanu darshanam. Right? We will see the padacheda. Indriya artheshu vairagyam anahankaraha evacha. Janma mrityu jara vyadhi dukkha dosha anudarshanam. I think there are three qualities here. 9 of the previous shloka plus 3 in this. Indriyartheshu vairagyam, anahankara, and anudarshanam of janma mrityu jara vyadhi dukkha dosha. Right? What does it say? I think we can directly come to dictionary, right? Indriyartheshu vairagyam. The vairagya, the virakta, the disinterestedness, the detachment to indriyartha, to sense gratifications, right? The firm removal of nature's natural beings' attraction to objects of senses. Basically, withdrawal from sense gratification, right? Indriyartheshu vairagyam. Not interested in pleasing the senses. Anahankara and radical freedom from egoism, ahankara. Na ahankara becomes anahankara, right? So, na ahankara, without any ahankara, not me. See, me, like for example, the previous shloka speaks about amanitva, adambhitva. Amanitva somewhere indicates arrogance, but from a ego, the sense of ego, but primarily from the sense of possession. This is mine. The whole world is for me to enjoy. That's the mana, mine, mana. Like that's the mamakara. Ahankara is the sense of doership. I do. I am teaching Bhagavad-Gita. Who can teach Bhagavad-Gita? At best, we can just repeat the words of some of the greatest acharyas. That ahankara, I am the doer, I do this, I am raising my kid. Don't feed the kid. The kid will find its food, it will grow into a nice human being. Right? But many of us think that, I have taken care of you. At some old age, some fight will happen with the kids. We will have that thing, anahankara. I am studying. I got this knowledge. I got this brain wave. All our brain waves are basically permutation combination of the influences of the various scriptures, various guru paramparas, and the way people have coached us, right? We can't claim that. So that jnana, to understand the jnana, that kartritva in terms of our action, that I did this, I got this, that ahankara is very important to be kept away. Otherwise, our knowledge can be clouded. Now, all of these things need to be kept from the point of view of jnana, amanitva, this is mine, ahankara, I do this, I studied this, I researched this. See, in our parampara, the Sanatana Dharma, we had struggled to understand who this Vedavyasa is. Forget Vedavyasa, Mahabharata, which now looks like a mythology, right? Even as recent as something like Manusmriti, we don't know who that Manu is. Or even later, Chanakya Niti, we don't know who that Chanakya is. Some research today, we are breaking our head because we want to align our thought along the Western line of thinking. Because the Western line of thinking is before even I can come up with a practical paper, I want to file for patency. No, this is I'll protect the intellectual property. We never believed in intellectual property. There was nothing called intellectual property. Ano bhatraha kratavo yantu vishwataha. Let good thoughts come to us from all directions. And this is the Sanatana Dharma's behave, policy. We never had ahankara, mamakara, ahankara, that I did this and this is mine. This is my knowledge, this is my discovery, this is my patent, this is my intellectual property, and I discovered it. Discovery is a happenstance based on the time at which we are in, based on the various influences of the various different acharyas and gurus upon us. But we go behind intellectual property today. I mean, we may have to do that because the Kali Yuga perhaps compels us to do that. But just to draw a comparison between what That could be a detriment to our proper knowledge seeking. When we go behind protecting our intellectual property, what this shloka, this anahankara is telling is perhaps again, right? A fine print. Perhaps it's detrimental to my pursuit of true knowledge when I go excessively behind safeguarding my intellectual property, right? Maybe I'm freezing the knowledge. Maybe it's incomplete knowledge. Maybe there is a lot more that can serve me a lot better, right? uh, and some of the things that we see in the technological development goes in this path. So many open source, like Python today. Python may be soon relegated. There is something new called the mojo taking over, right? And all of this is happening because of a lot of it is open source. Nobody is tying things down. See the advantage of open source. Like, a lot of it is coming out so nicely. People like even Elon Musk are contemplating to make things like Tesla also open source, like, without any intellectual property attachment. So basically, anahankara. So the pursuit of knowledge is best when we don't attach pride, vanity, ownership, that mamakara, amanitva, anahankara. So we need to look at it from that point of view, right? And janma, mrityu, jara, vyadhi, dukkha, dosha, anudarshanam. Dosha anudarshana. We need to be aware of anudarshana. Darshana is the sight. Anudarshana is the awareness of the dosha. What are the different dosha? Doshas are the defects. These are the five defects: Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi, Dukkha. These are the fivefold defects. We need to be aware of it, right? A keen perception of the defective nature of the ordinary life of physical man, with its aimless and painful subjection to A, birth, B, death, C, aging, D, diseases, and the sorrows. Painful subjection. So maybe one leads to the other. There is no marana, there is no death without janma, so birth. But both are doshas. We need to understand that. This is at the Paramarthika level. When we look at the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, the very second Adhyaya begins with all that remained was that Bhagavan, and the Bhagavan there is called as Mrityu. Death is the only reality, the ultimate death, ultimate destruction. Okay, let's not go that far, but basically, to have a proper jnana, we need to have a keen understanding, keen perception of these fivefold disorders, doshas, defects. The fivefold defects, the disorders are birth, death, old age, diseases, and sorrows. And nobody is spared of these, right? And why we need to be keenly perceiving all of these things? Because it might impact us. And when we are subjugated under these fivefold doshas, then our knowledge may not be right. So we need to be able to detach ourselves from being subjugated by these, to be able to go down the path of proper knowledge. And that is the knowledge, right? The real knowledge is sa vidya ya vimuktaye. And we need to keep on reminding us. Okay, let's see what Aurobindo says. A firm removal of natural beings' attraction to the objects of senses, indriyartheshu vairagyam, a radical freedom from egoism, anahankara, a keen perception of the defective nature of the ordinary life, dosha anudarshanam, of physical man with its aimless and painful subjection, dukkha anushayi, like what? To birth, death, disease, aging. This is declared to be the knowledge, or the path of the knowledge, or the prerequisite for the proper knowledge. We can look at it that way also, right? Though this website says one thing, we can look at it in its multiple ways in which it can be applicable, understood. Again, the last three shlokas, we still park them aside. Amanitvam, adambhitvam, ahimsa, kshantirarjavam, acharyopasanam, shaucham, sairyamatma vinigraha, indriyartheshu vairagyam, anahankara evacha, janma mrityu jara vyadhi dukkha doshanudarshanam. There are 12 core qualities being spoken of, right? Now, with that, we can go to the next shloka, shloka number 10. right? Harihi Om. Om. Asaktiranabhishwangah putradara grihadishu nityancha samachittatvam ishtanishtopapatishu. What does the Padacheda says? Asaktihi anabhishwangaha putradara grihadishu nityancha samachittatvam ishta anishta upapattishu ishtanishtopapatishu. There are a couple of sandhis, right? Asaktihi, okay. Anabhishwangaha. Asaktihi is disinterested, na asakta. Anabhishwangaha, and being absorbed in what? In putra dara grihadishu. Putra is son or progeny. Dara is wife, or the what do we call husband or wife? There is another word, no? I keep forgetting that. Spouse, yeah. Progeny, spouse, and the home, griha. Griha is the home, and adi, grihadi. Basically, these three things called as the upalakshana, putra dara grihadi, basically means all material things, all materialistic possessions. Parigraha, we call it as parigraha, and the viruddha of that is aparigraha. Basically, if you want to be aparigraha, if you want to be detached to the material things, there are two things that Krishna is telling us: be asakta, be disinterested, be anabhishwangaha. Anabhishwangaha is, like, for example, many of us take revenge on somebody because they killed my wife. Now, that is abhishwanga. Let's see if I can dig some nice definition of it. Saktihi is sneha, attachment, and asaktihi is the detachment. And anabhishwangaha is basically, yeah, as I said, we will take a lot of decision because of our association with them, giving up that also. Like when my son gets the first rank in an examination, I start jumping up in joy. I start distributing sweets to the entire planet, right? So something like that. No, when my wife wins an election, no, I start jumping up in joy. Right? So one is asakti, I need my wife, and then anabhishwangaha, no, abhishwangaha. I also take the similar emotions, or much more amplified emotions, to the feelings of those attachments. My one concrete slab falls from my house. I'm attached to my house. Attachment is one. But when that concrete slab breaks because of extreme storm, I lose my head. That's the abhishwanga. Anabhishwanga is not having that, not having associated, absorption into that attachment. Attachment is one to the material things, and absorbed in those attachments is another thing. So, asaktihi anabhishwangaha, among all my material attachments, which include my progeny, my spouse, my house, and few others. And ishta anishta upapattishu nityam samachittatvam. Samachittatvam is that equanimity, samachitta, equal manovritti, equal jnana, equal bhava, samachittatva in ishta anishta upapattishu. Whether I get something favorable or not so favorable, whether I get something pleasant, ishta, or anishta, unpleasant, upapattishu, whatever I acquire, acquaint, in all my acquisitions and acquaintances that are either pleasant or unpleasant, favorable or unfavorable, no, nitya, I show a constant samachittatva, equanimity, basically stoic behavior. And that is important for the jnana. When we want to go behind knowledge, two things that are needed. One is detachment and non-indulgence in my material possessions, putradara grihadi, and nitya samachittatva, constant equanimity in whether I get pleasantries or unpleasantries, no, my acquisitions. We stop here. We'll quickly read the Aurobindo piece of this. Absence of clinging to the attachment and absorption of family, home, and other material things, and constant equalness to all pleasant or unpleasant happenings. That is declared to be the knowledge, or the pathway to the knowledge, or the prerequisite for the ultimate knowledge. Right? While the website says one, I keep repeating those 3, 4 different ways in which we can read this so that we can internalize that. Right? Because, yatha ruchi, yatha karma, vadanti anekantam. There are different ways in which different people say that. And let us try to get the best of all. Right? So with that, it is 9:35 now. We are well past the 90-minute mark. More thoughts, we would conclude the room. Thanks everyone for joining. Tomorrow morning, we are starting the new cycle of the Bhagavad-Gita Parayana. Every week we do this, and Sunday to Saturday, we complete the full chanting of the Bhagavad-Gita, all the 701 shlokas. And then Saturday, Yatha Prakara, after the chanting is done at 8 o'clock with a brief break in between, we meet for the next Pratipadartha session next Saturday on the 24th of June. Hope to see you all there, and please also spread the word among the near and dear ones who are looking for a space like this to get the fundamentals right for Bhagavad Gita. This is nothing great. This is just a fundamental discussion on the Gita. On the reverse count of 3, we will conclude the room. Thanks once again, everyone, for joining. Those of you in good space can join us on the stage for a small Jaya Ghoshti in the name of our Gita Charya, beloved Gita Charya, Bhagavan Sri Krishna. 3, 2, 1. Namaste Vasudevaya Preyasa me Priyottama Samasta Guna Sampurna Nirdosha Nandadayine Mukopi Yat Prasadena Mukunda Shayanayate राजराजायते रिक्तो राघवेन्द्रं तमाश्रये भारती रमण मुख्य प्राणांतरत श्री गोपाल कृष्ण प्रियताम श्री कृष्णार्पणमस्तु. Have a beautiful week, everyone. Jai Shri Krishna.
जय श्री
जय
कृष्ण
श्री
Jai
कृष्णा।
Shri
जय
Jai Shri
श्री राम।
Krishna.
Krishna, Jai
Jai
Shri
Shri Krishna.
Krishna.